What's up, everybody? We're back.
Yeah! Hey, welcome back to the Metal Edge Journey. Hey, so look, not confusing at all. Hope you've been following along with us. We are doing 4 top 20 lists at the same time right now. We have made it back around to the big 5. No, excuse me. See, this is why it's confusing. This is the top 5 of the big 4 of Prog Metal. So we are on the 4th album now of Symphony X. This is Paradise Lost. I'm confused. I hope you're following along at home. So hey, we'll do a quick history of the band here, and we'll get right into this album. Like I said, Symphony X, Paradise Lost, the 4th of their 5 albums on this list. Symphony X, formed in 1994, is an American prog metal band from Middleton, New Jersey. The band was formed by former Gemini guitarist Michael Romeo. Symphony X's music includes complex timings and odd meters while incorporating elements of heavy metal and progressive rock. Their early albums in particular contain strong neoclassical elements reminiscent of Yngwie Malmsteen, Randy Rhoads, who Dave doesn't like. That's David up there, wherever he's at, doesn't like Randy Rhoads. And the band have been categorized as progressive metal, power metal, and neoclassical metal, though the band themselves dislike genre labels, with Romeo stating that they can be misleading sometimes. At the core of it all, we're a metal band. Symphony X is often compared to other progressive metal bands such as Dream Theater and Fate's Warning, other bands on this list. The band has released 9 studio albums, including their most recent album, 2015's Underworld. Paradise Lost, released in 2007, is the band's 7th studio album. It's a concept album loosely based on John Milton's 1667 epic poem Paradise Lost. This album peaked at number 123 on the U.S. Billboard charts. I was impressed by that. I had to include that. So let me ask you guys a question.
Yeah.
Okay, we're in a band. Okay, let's just pretend like we're in a band. We've been on a break. We've made 6 albums. We've toured the world. Okay, and then we get back together, and you're like, guys, I've got the idea for our next album. Bear with me.
Hear me out.
Let me talk to you about John Milton's epic poem from the year 1667. I think we can make an album off this. What's your initial reaction? Go.
I want to hear this poem.
Yeah.
I need more context.
Yeah.
Like don't read it to me. Just give me the cliff notes.
Just paraphrase. Yeah.
Yeah.
Here, look. I'll look up the poem real quick, dude. We'll read it on air. Hopefully, it's not.
I feel like famous last words here.
I'm gonna go see how long it is, Dave. You like this album more than everybody else, so let's have somebody else go first. Jonah, go first, man. How'd this album make you feel?
So, overall, I really liked the album. The guitars sound incredible. These might be the best sounding guitars that I've reviewed yet on this channel. And then, on top of that, how freaking good are Russell Allen's vocals? Like, holy crap, dude. Like, he kills it on this entire album from start to finish. Even the songs that I wasn't super hot on, like, his vocals and the vocal element in general are just chef's kiss.
Yikes. This thing has 10,000 lines. We're not going to do that. Go ahead, Jonah. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I figured that wasn't going to happen.
10,000 lines. I'm sorry to cut you off. But I show up and I'm like, we're going to do it on this poem. And they're like, oh, okay, cool. Let's see this poem. And you're like, bow, here's 10,000 lines of fucking poetry. Come see me in a month and let's start writing this album. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, no, we're definitely basing it off the Cliff Notes version, not the unabridged
We are also
version.
Unintelligent and not in a prog metal band.
Yeah, did they have ChatGPT in 2007 where it was like, can you give me the highlights?
Yeah. Let's just look at the themes and the metaphors, not every single word. Anyway, so I mean, the album's nice and heavy, which I love. There's so many sick riffs. Again, attributing to the guitar work on the album by Romeo. It has kind of like a soundtrack, almost like a operatic feel to it. It is a concept album, so of course there's going to be kind of like that through line of
grandiose
epicness, if you will. Yeah. Kind of my summary that I walked away with from this album is, if you like metal that feels like an epic adventure, this is your album, 100%. Because that's what it feels like.
That's a video game metal for sure.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd necessarily go that far, but it definitely has like that epic adventure feel, with all the different musical elements. So, but yeah, I
got ChatGPT giving me the highlights,
a summary of version.
Yeah, that's an awful lot.
And it's still like 200 lines.
Here's the initial recap. It's a monumental epic poem that tells the biblical story of the fall of man, focusing on Satan's rebellion, Adam and Eve's disobedience, and the consequences for humankind.
Interesting.
All right.
I knew that. I knew that going
books
into this review because I had already I had listened to this album way back. I don't know if I listened to it when it was brand new in 2007, but I definitely listened to this album 2008, 2009 because I was already deep into prog at that time. And this was a very popular release at the time. And
go ahead, Dave. Give us your review here.
So I was already familiar with the subject matter, and I really do think, knowing some of what it's about, you definitely pick some of that up on the lyrics on some of these songs. But I think that's purely optional. I don't think in previous concept albums we've reviewed on this channel, I feel like you kind of had to know the concept to really even enjoy the record. I don't think the record stood alone from the concept. I think it was all connected. An example, even though I love this record, an example for me would be the Queensryche Operation Mindcrime record. I feel like to really, really enjoy that album, you do have to know the story. I
agree. It certainly helps.
Yeah, it helps a lot. Here, I think even if you just go in and just jam this as a metal album or as a prog metal album, I don't think you have to know the story. But for me, I do enjoy it more because of that. Yeah, man, I really enjoy this record. I think Jonah nailed it. It's incredibly heavy. I think all the instruments sing. I think Russell Allen is easily one of my favorite vocalists, specifically in prog, but he's probably a top 10 vocalist for me in general, in no particular order. I think he's just he knows how to be powerful, but he also can put some grit, some vocal fry on his voice. I mean, obviously from a riff standpoint, some of the just heaviest riffs in prog. Again, I think this album for me, it's so funny because I feel like if I was ever going to show Josh a prog metal album, this would be one of the ones I would have shown him as a gateway into prog. And the fact that, spoiler, he didn't like it as much as I would have hoped is shocking to me a little bit. Yeah, just because I think there's some really just heavy banging riffs on this album. I thoroughly enjoyed this record.
Well, Dave, you're right. I mean, look, there are some absolutely just heavy riffs on this record. And like I said, I think there are some absolute bangers on this record. But I'm sitting here, I've been trying to think for weeks because we've been kind of on this record for a little bit since we did the Love Bites EP last week. And I've been trying to think to myself, I don't understand. This has a lot of things on it that I love. Right? There are some great riffs on this record. The vocals, I mean, this guy reminds me of, and I'm losing his name, but the vocalist for the first album that Master Plan did. It's another power metal band. So there's a lot of things on this album that I feel like I should like, but I found myself really struggling to keep my attention on the record. There were moments where I'd be listening to the record and it pulls me in, right? I mean, not to give away the list here, but I mean, songs like Serpent's Kiss, Set the World on Fire, I hear those come on and I'm like, oh yeah, okay, here we go. And then it's we come to some of the other songs on the list and I'm just not as moved by them. I mean, Eve of Seduction, that's not in my bottom or anything like that, but right now I'm looking at it and I couldn't tell you what that song sounds like right now. It's I don't know. It failed for me to capture my attention all the time. And Dave, I think I kind of put it together when you were talking a second ago when you're talking about prog metal. So we did Twilight and Olympus, which was the fifth record from them on this list. And I love that record. I think I gave that something in the 8.5 or something like that.
8.1.
Yeah, 8.1. And I think the difference is this feels way more proggy than that does. I don't know if you can remember like that album and how it felt, but I think this album just feels very proggy to me, and that's the problem. Is like at certain points I just check out. Like they're going, and I mean again, it's very impressive. Just like some of the longer Dream Theater songs are very impressive. But at some point, I'm just a booger eating moron at heart, and I fucking zonk out, dude. And it can be the greatest guitar solo in the history of time, but if it's been going for 2 minutes, I'm just kind of like, oh, let's get to the next thing. So,
you have ADHD when it comes to music, basically what you're saying.
Yeah, that's fair. So look, I don't want anybody to think I'm shitting on the record by any means. Like there are a couple songs on this record that I think I don't know what the grand list of like the top 200 metal songs of all time are. But there are 2 songs on this list that are fucking just absolute soul crushing songs. And then there's 8 other ones that are fine for me, and that's kind of where I'm at with the record. What do you got, Jason?
I'm going to echo some of your sentiment, Josh. I found myself kind of shocked because I think I like this as far as the ones that we reviewed so far from this list. I think this is the one I liked the most.
Okay.
Of the prog albums that we had. The issue I ran into was similar to what you just said. We had some extra time with this. And over the last week or so, I would jam it in the background. I'd be mowing the yard. I'd be doing some chores. I'd be doing something else. And I'd have my headset in. And I'd just listen to it in the background. I'm like, yeah, okay, this is good. That's good. This is good. And I was like, man, I think I might really like this album. And then I come in today and I start judging song by song. And that's when I start to listen to every song and kind of grade it individually. And I'm like, wow, this song is really long. Or is this bridge still going? Or is this a solo? Or is this where are we at in this song? And then I started realizing that I was just liking bits and pieces of each song, not whole songs. And so I was a little bit disappointed in that revelation, but I still think this is really good. I think there are some great riffs. The guitar work is fantastic. And I really do like the vocals. There's not any part of the vocals that I don't like.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I enjoyed myself. It's just, I wish I wish I liked it more.
Yeah. And look, Train of Thought had some moments like this. Train of Thought had some songs and moments where there were great pieces, and then it went off into some other thing. So this suffers some of what Train of Thought had, but Train of Thought, I think, was a little bit more on point for most of the album.
Ironically, had like twice or 3 times the song length, which I
that's what I'm saying. I don't think it's like I know I've said this in the past about like song length being an issue for me. But then like when I go back and I look at Train of Thought, I think my top 3 songs were maybe the 3 longest songs on the album. And so then I go back and I start thinking, well, do I have a problem with song length, or do I have a problem with the quality of what's in the song? And in some cases, like again, it's not, when I say quality, I don't want it to sound bad, but I don't know. I like guitar solos, they're cool, but do I like minutes and minutes of it? I don't know. Maybe I don't. Maybe I want like that why am I blanking? The song that we did last week.
Nightwish?
The symphonic, Nightwish. There you go. God, my brain don't work today. Like the Nightwish song, like the fact that it was long, it was 9 minutes, but it had so many different sections. Like I think Dream Theater does that well. Like, and I think some of these songs in here were screaming for something like that to keep it interesting to me.
All right.
Jonah, you said you had a hot take. on this album? Hit me.
Yeah, so it does kind of tie into what you're saying a little bit. So I mean, my hot take is maybe it's not as hot for some of you, but while technically impressive, I felt myself not liking this album as much as I would have thought I would. And a lot of that boils down to some of the songs, not all of them, but some of the songs feeling a bit too long. And not necessarily long, not necessarily the length of the song itself, but like you have to do something interesting with all that extra time, and it doesn't always do that. So it surprised me. It surprised me because in a vacuum, a lot of these songs and these longer sections are very technically impressive, and I'm like, yes, this is awesome. But then as it goes on, then maybe I'm, losing interest a little bit. And I think, Jason, I resonate with what you said earlier. When I had this on in the background, I was like, this is amazing. But when I was, because of the way I review, which is similar to the way you do, I analyze each song individually. When I got to certain parts of certain songs, I was like, okay, let's move it along a little bit. Like, this is good, but we can tighten this up a little bit. So that's my, again, it's not necessarily a hot take based on the majority opinion on this podcast, but for for actual prog metal fans, that might be somewhat of a hot take. But don't, all that said, don't get it twisted. I think this is a really good album. And while my score maybe not be as high as that statement indicates, I think that the highs on this album are extremely high for me.
Yeah.
And if we were going off of feel, like we tried last week, I think my feel meter is actually way higher than my score actually reflects. And that's just because of the way I pick apart everything and give weighted scores, especially to some of these longer songs. But we'll get to that when we get to it.
My hot take is that I'm still friends with y'all.
Yeah. I was gonna say Dave's hot take is he needs to do friends.
I'm surrounded by idiots.
Yeah, like I don't even have I'm trying to be really nice, and it's really difficult. All
Look,
right?
I think the problem is if you're a prog fan, this is good shit. But if you're not like a diehard, if you're not a diehard prog fan,
I just completely
some of
disagree
these
with that, though.
some of this stuff is tropey for prog music.
I
like
think
the jam sessions are, like I said, technically impressive, and if that's what you're into, you're gonna love it. But if you want like a more structured, tight song, you are not going to enjoy it as much. And I say structured. I don't mean structure in the way of the writing, because again, the writing is really good. But when you want a song that's 3.5 to 4.5 minutes long, verse, chorus, bridge, outro, like call us booger eating morons, but that's what a lot of people like. Myself included, not necessarily all the time, but myself included. I mean, if that's the kind of stuff that you like, then that's gonna, reflect the score. And I'm not, Dave, I know you want to get your shit in, but you have to understand that we're not shitting on this for the sake of shitting on it. That's just how we feel when we listen to it.
So then you shouldn't listen. You shouldn't listen to metal. You shouldn't listen to metal then, because what you described is pop music. Verse, chorus.
That's not true.
No, there's plenty of metal that has that. Some of the greatest metal albums of all time follow that same formula.
Black Sabbath.
The reason it's a formula is because we're human. We like recognizable patterns.
Boring. Got it. All right, let's move on. You guys are boring. That's what we've established.
I completely disagree that if you like prog metal, you're going to love this.
Yeah, I just don't.
That is what you said.
Anyway, I'm just going to move on.
All right, Dave, who's your MVP for the record?
What does it even matter? So
can I just say that I appreciate, Dave, how you feel right now. I do, because I've felt that way plenty of times. Okay,
plenty of times.
And what I found is
that's going to be me when we get to Linkin Park.
Yeah, it doesn't help to share this feeling, because then everybody's just going to pile on. And they're just gonna make you feel worse. So
yeah, well, that's because y'all aren't good friends, but that's understandable.
Look, this is how I felt when we were talking about fucking Dirt from Alice in Chains.
Yeah, but
and
that
you're
album
over there
sucks.
just fucking exactly. You're just over there railing on it for 30 minutes.
Or every time we talk about Saint Anger and how awful it sounds.
Oh, dude, it's so good.
For life. I can't
Who's
even.
your MVP?
It's Russell Allen. I think. I think Michael Romeo. It would be a close second. Look, all the guys in the band are fantastic, but for me, Russell Allen steals the show. I think he is. I think he really makes this record. Like I said, it's Michael Romeo is a close second, but I'd give it to Allen.
Yeah, I'd go Romeo just for the riff writing, because if we're just putting those riffs separate and actually taking the time to write good music with those riffs, I mean, this could be legendary.
I'll go next. I'm going to agree with Josh Romeo. I found myself
Just learned his name today.
I enjoyed all of his music, as far as the lyric side of it for Russell. But what I found myself catching as I was listening were mostly the riffs.
Jonah, what you got?
Honestly, this was hard for me because depending on my mood at any given time, I could go with either Romeo or Allen. And actually, I had Russell
don't tell
Allen.
me the bass player.
No. He didn't even write the music. So I actually had Russell Allen at first because, I mean, that's like one of the first notes I wrote when I was writing my notes was how freaking good are his vocals.
Mm-hmm.
But after further listening and breaking down some of the riffs and stuff like that, and just, again, I led with this. The guitars sound incredible on this album. They might be the best that I've reviewed on this channel for this album. So it's got to be Romeo for me as well. Just the writing overall and the sound of the guitars was excellent.
Hit me with your top tracks.
So I kind of went back and forth on some of these, but I ended up going with number 3 for me is Domination. That song has a great riff. It's almost the best riff, in my opinion. The intro, especially when the bass comes in, it's so good. For number 2, I have Walls of Babylon. Now, funny thing about that song is I thought, on my first listen, I thought it was going to be an instrumental because it's got like 3.5 minutes of just instruments. I was going to be like, ooh, yeah, let's go instrumental. I love instrumentals. But then the vocals came in. I was like, oh, there's a regular song. Even better. So that's my number 2. And then number 1 for me is going to be Revelation. I love that song.
I am curious to see how this plays out because I feel like there's enough differences in a lot of this music for us to all have different top 3s.
I don't share any of Jonah's.
Either do I.
I do.
That's good.
I share.
Go ahead, Jason.
I got number 3, Set the World on Fire. I've got the galloping riff sections. I'll eat that shit up. Number 2, 7. And my number 1 song, Eve of Seduction. Great guitar work. Love that shit.
There you go. I don't share. I do share one with you. Yeah. Dave, what you got?
So, I would say my runner up or whatever, my number 4 is going to be Domination. It's a great song. My number 3, Set the World on Fire. Very good opening track. Number 2, Walls of Babylon. That's a fantastic song. And my number 1 song easily is Paradise Lost.
Yeah. All right. Number 3 for me, Dave. Good choice. Paradise Lost. Great vocals. Love the feel of the song. Number 2, Set the World on Fire. Like Dave said, it's not really the intro. It's a great second track, but just rips. But number 1, I can't believe nobody else had this on their list. And I swear to God, if any of you guys have this on your cut list, I'm logging out. But dude, Serpent's Kiss, man. Like it's the most brutal song on the record, just in terms of the riffage and everything that's on there. I think this is. It would be so hard to put together like a top 100 metal songs or anything like that in my brain, but like I feel like this would be on the list somewhere in there.
It's
like
this
really
song
good. Fucking slaps.
It was tied for my number 5.
Fair enough. All right, hey, so we're gonna do a little exercise here. So we all know in the metal world that the sweet spot for metal albums is actually 8 songs, and so what we like to do each show is actually cut these albums down to what would be the classic 8. This album's only got 10 songs, so it should be an easy cut. I'll go first here.
I mean, what I was gonna say is, are we all just gonna cut the first song? It's just a first song sweep.
No.
Oh, okay. I stand corrected.
I'm going to take the low-hanging fruit, Dave, and I'm going to cut Oculus X Inferni. Inferni? I don't know. Listen, it's fine, but, it's just intro. It's whatever.
It should have just
and
combined
it's on track, so...
Yeah, merge it. Merge it.
So it fits. And then, look, I'm going to go with 7. I think 7's pretty weak compared to the rest of the tracks on this album. So, but look, 7's not bad, but it's just I think it's definitely weaker.
I think it's definitely one of the weakest myself.
Go ahead, Jonah.
Yeah.
Back me up.
So I'm gonna go with Oculus X Inferni as well. I think it can easily just be merged into the first track, and we solve that problem very quickly and easily. And then actually, the only song of not counting the intro because it's an intro, the only song on this album that I didn't particularly like, and I would consider a skipper, it's going to be The Sacrifice. Look, I understand what it is and why it's on here, but from an overall, feel for the album and the way it made me feel through each track, when it got there, it just kind of came to a screeching halt, and then we go to the revelation, and I don't know, it didn't quite do it for me. So that's gonna be make the cut for me.
Jason, what you got?
I got 2 songs that pretty much for me are kind of just meh for me. Which one of them was Paradise Lost, which I just didn't get into, and Revelation, the last song.
Damn, you dumb.
I can't even. So yeah, I agree. Oculus X Inferni. I think you just merge that. Like, I wouldn't cut it, whatever, but I would just merge it and set the world on fire. And it would be fine. And I also would and historically, when I would listen to this album in the past, I would tend to skip 7. There's nothing wrong with the song, but I actually really like The Sacrifice. Jonah, you're stupid. I really like The Sacrifice, so I skip 7 because I want to hear The Sacrifice, and then go straight into Revelation. Which I think
you sacrifice 7.
Yeah,
look at that, Dave. Me and you on the same page.
Yep.
All right, okay, we're moving on to the last category here for the show. This is where we like to give our score for the album. If you're still here at this point, thank you to the 2 fans that stick around this long. We tried to introduce a new scoring system. We were outvoted by our fans, so thank you guys for weighing in on that. We are going to stick to our standard scoring system. And for those that don't know, that is a standard 1 through 10 scoring system. For albums that for a lot of folks out there, an average score would be a 7. For us, it's a 5. So any album that scores below a 5, like a 4.9 down to 0, that's various levels we would not recommend that album. Anything 5 and above is various levels that we would recommend that record, and anything 9 to 10 is like an all-time classic. Dave, I think you're going to get the best record for this, or the best score for this. Excuse me. I think you should go first.
That's fair.
Let's satisfy the people that waited.
Yeah, I will say this disclaimer: if you like prog, after I am done, you should probably just stop the video or mute it. Right? I don't know. I say that jokingly. I don't know what these guys are going to score it. Right? But yeah. So I'm the most familiar with prog anyway, coming into this. So I really enjoy this record. I really enjoyed it. I might also be partially defensive because I have jammed this record for a long time. It is like one of the only Symphony X records that I was familiar with before we hit this list. So just because of that, I may be a little bit more biased to it. That being said, I think this is a great record. And I stand by what I said. I think this is a very good bridge record for people who are really into technical heavy metal and prog and kind of want something in between. Because I think there's a lot to like from both worlds. You could argue on the execution, but I think this album is really, really, really strong. And I actually think it's legendary. I'm at a 9.1 on this record.
Oh my god,
idea.
dude, you're gonna be so mad.
Look,
Dave, I think you should mute and not listen to the rest of this.
Look, I already knew. I knew going into this because I already knew that I loved this record. Like, I regularly listen to this album. Like, I throw it on just for funsies. So, like, I knew where my score was gonna end up. And look, if none of y'all are above a 7, or if none of y'all are above a 6.5, like, I've already accepted. Now, I will not accept below a 5. I think that would just be objectively stupid and wrong. But anything above a 5, and I'll just take that as a victory and move on with my life.
All right, well, I'll hop in here with my 4.9. No, listen, like I said, lots of good. There's lots to like on this record. There's just too much to like on this record. I guess you could say it's too fat. There's too much going on.
Too much chocolate cake.
Yeah. I would give it a 6.
I hope people in the comments section, for those of you that are made it this far, please, like, try to talk some sense into these guys in the comments. Like, don't downvote the video, like, for 3 out of the 4 of us being stupid. Like, just let them know why this record deserved better.
Dave, it's Prog. 26 people are going to watch this video.
Oh, that's fair. All right, go ahead.
Go ahead, Jonah.
All right, yeah, I'll go next. I really enjoyed this album. Mathematically, it suffered a bit, but overall, my feel
5.8.
No, but you know, the overall feel, I greatly enjoyed my time with this album. But when I did the math and it all came down to the wire, I ended up landing at a 7.5.
That's acceptable. That's acceptable.
That's fucking high for Jonah.
That's a high Jonah score.
I think it's really good. The lows do drag it a bit for me, but the highs are really high. And I'll tell you what saved it, honestly, because of how I do my scoring. When I first saw that Revelation was 918, I was prepared to hate the song. But as I listened to it over and over, I was like, no, this is really good. And despite its length, it kept my attention. And it's epic and it's heavy.
And you have weighted scores with based on length.
I do weighted scores specifically for instances like this. Because this song is 9 minutes 18, so I scored it very high, and I think that brought up the whole average. So that's what I landed at, 7.5.
All right, Jason.
All right, well,
give us your 5.8.
Again, I really did like this album, but I like this album. Yeah, I like this album more as background music, as something to play when I'm doing something else, not just to jam specific songs. And that's why this album, I think, is my highest rated prog metal.
I highly doubt that
album.
I highly doubt that.
What is my highest one?
6.7.
Do you know? There you go. 6.8.
Oh
wow. Okay.
All right.
This album does have a lot of really good stuff in it, and I really do enjoy listening to it in the background.
What a compliment!
I think another thing to keep in mind also, it's hard to write
a backhanded compliment is still a compliment.
That's fair.
It's hard to make a concept album like easily digestible. They went with a concept. You know, I think it landed, and I really enjoyed it. But you know, it's not going to be for everybody.
All right, Dave, what's that score?
All things considered, it's good. It's 7.35, which
over 7. You should be over the moon about that.
Oh, dude, I mean, look, I'm elated. Okay, like that is the third highest score we've given on the prog list. For reference, Jonah, your average scores right now for the prog list is 7.1. Josh, you're at a 6.9. Nice.
Nice. Yeah.
I'm at an 8.6, and Jason is at a 6.2. So, like, that's where we all stand as far as our enjoyment of prog.
So Jason's not having a lot of fun.
Which tracks.
Not having as much, at least.
And Josh, you're having the right amount of fun.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Give and take, buddy. Give and take.
That's right.
All right.
We're at a B 7.35.
There you go. Well, hey, if you're also into 69, then go ahead and hit the like, hit the subscribe. And...
Take it easy, everybody.
All right.
Later.
Later.